Welcome, my darlings, to my humble chateau. Please make yourself very comfortable. Relax your mind and release your imagination to me. I will bring you a story to entrance and entertain. Perhaps a frightening one. Perhaps a steampunk. Perhaps a bit of mythology. Anyway, sit back, enjoy, and subscribe to me. Beyond Stranger Bridgerland by John E. Olson. Intro and Grandma Snowman. I grew up in the house that was very paranormally active, so I got really used to odd and unexplainable things happening. Sharing my stories with others opened a door to experiences others would like to share with me. By the age of 17, I was interviewing and investigating other people's interactions with the paranormal. The spirit that lived in my home was a bit of a prankster. Over my lifetime, I'd become very accustomed to things moving or going missing. There aren't too many things that happen around the house that rattle me. My own kids have grown up spending a lot of time at their grandparents' house. My mother watched them a couple of times a week while my wife and I went to work. Over the years, they have seen some strange things as well. My oldest son, Cody, has become a sort of target for the ghost's attention. I'm not sure why, but he enjoys picking on Cody more than the other grandkids. One object the ghost loved to manipulate was Grandma's snowman. I don't remember exactly where my mother got it, but it was about 4 feet tall, and inside the white snow padding it was made with heavy dowels to help hold it upright. There was a sandbag base, so it was pretty heavy and hard to move around. Every year during the holidays it sat in the front room. It was placed in a certain corner, but never liked to stay there. Somehow at night, or when my parents were away, the ghost would move it around the front room. The person that noticed it the most was my son Cody. It really bothered him to see that it had moved, especially on those nights when he slept over. After Christmas time, the snowman was always placed in a storage room in the basement, so that it would be out of the way. One spring, Grandpa hired Cody to come paint the stairwell and hallway leading to the basement. He had been painting for some time and had already made his way down the stairs. He had just started working in the little hallway adjacent to the storage room. He had his earphones in, listening to music while he worked. He was moving right along when all of a sudden, a creepy feeling came over him. He stopped and looked into the storage room. There in the corner was the snowman, staring at him. He really didn't like this, so he walked across the room, picked up the snowman, and placed it in the corner. He made sure to turn it away from the door, facing the back wall of the storage room. Feeling a bit better, he went back to his music and painting. After about 10 minutes, he began feeling uneasy again. He poked his head around the corner to peer into the storage room, and right in the middle of the room was the snowman, staring at him. Not only had it turned around, but it had moved 6 feet to the middle of the room. Cody ran upstairs and told us what had happened. He let us know, in no uncertain terms, that he would not finish painting until the snowman was gone. With Grandma's permission, I took the snowman to the front porch. It stayed there until she sold it a few weeks later. I hope nothing left with it when it was sold. Wagon Train by Avery. My mother and I had spent the day in Salt Lake City shopping. We enjoyed doing it a couple times a year together. As we headed back to Cache Valley, up Sardine Canyon, the sun had just set behind the mountains, and the valley was in a beautiful red glow. My mother was driving, and we talked about our fun day as we headed past Wellsville, nearing Logan. We had just passed the historical farm when I noticed something very odd in the field to our right. I told Mom to slow down as we approached a field on the east side of the road. There, in a row, just inside the field, was a wagon train of about 10 wagons. It was getting pretty dark, but in the last light of the day, I could see everyone was dressed in early period clothes, and a few wagons even had some milk cows tied to the back. As we slowed down, I could also see kids running alongside the wagon. Barrels were tied on the side of the wagon. It looked very authentic. After we passed, I told my mother I wanted to go back. I had my camera with me and wanted to take a picture. I assumed that it was something going on at the American West Historical Farm. We got to the turnoff for Nibley and headed back to the field with the wagon train. We drove all the way back to Wellsville, but saw nothing. Confused, again we turned around and drove to where I knew we had seen the wagons, but there was nothing there. On our way home, we talked about what we had seen and questioned where they could have gone in such a short amount of time. The description of what we each saw matched up, but it had vanished. The next day, I called the American West Center, but they said that there had been no activities going on. They had no idea what I was talking about. I thanked them and hung up. It wasn't until that moment I realized what we had seen was something from out of our time, a scene that hadn't taken place for over 100 years. I feel blessed to have seen this small piece of history for myself. I have 2 short stories for you by Louie from my subreddit, Madam Raven's Darlings, and so I will read these to you right now, just as a little extra. And so, I'm sitting there with my headphones on, trying to watch the monitors. Jeff is absolutely going nuts about whatever he thinks he heard or seen, and I still haven't heard anything. I look down at the monitor and I'm still listening. Then I hear it, very faint. Get out now. And I'm still looking at my monitor. And then I look over at Jeff. Jeff is white as a ghost. I'm telling you, he looked so scared I thought he was going to run out the door. I suddenly look over to monitor number 2 on my laptop, and there I see it, plain as day, that Kane has been moved again. I steady myself, ready to think of any way possible this could have happened. I'm thinking. That's how can that Kane move? Jeff is sitting right next to me. As moved, he looks like he's ready to run home to Mommy. I'm still sitting here trying to figure out what the heck's going on. All I can do is get ready to run myself because I'm starting to get scared now. Now my new rear both, only 3 months away from graduating high school. I tell myself this can't be happening. Not tonight. We've been just about every place in town and never caught anything like this. Matter of fact, we've never caught anything. This is only our second or third absolutely true investigation. So I decided to do the unthinkable. I call a friend that is a paranormal investigator. that I'm not supposed to involve in any of my high school investigations. So I decide to turn on my mobile hotspot and messaging everything that we've got so far. Never mind, he's only a couple of miles down the road. I could have just called. But I figured he was probably in bed because it's after midnight and it's a Saturday night. So imagine he was out all night. My Story by Louie Carson. I'm in the north part of Oklahoma. I was a young man when I lost my son, and I went through a drunken phase for a few years. One night I was visited by a spirit. It was a very young child. It told me that I was wasting my life drinking, and he didn't want that for me. I was a complete skeptic of the paranormal. At the time, I was completely drunk that night. I was completely sober at the end of my experience with the little spirit. I was still on the hunt for my son ever since. At the time I lost my son, I lived in Sapulpa, Oklahoma. So I would come back. I live in a completely different state. I can hardly stand to go back to the place of my birth. I do, yet I always come home completely drained. I decided this time I was going to the cemetery, where my family and my son are buried. I was going to stay in the house where I grew up and do an investigation of the old homestead. I couldn't bring myself to stay there, but in town there were some great old motels that are haunted. It's an absolutely beautiful area, and it has a lot of Native American burial grounds. And the hotel I'm staying in is called the Old Cherokee Chief's Lodge. There's a burial ground in the back of the motel, a couple of 100 yards away. So I walk out of my room, and I have my camera and digital recorder with me. And I couldn't stay inside after I talked to my boss, so I walked toward the open hillside where the burial grounds are supposed to be. As I'm walking, I'm recording the whole way. I'm not thinking I would have any luck finding activity. It's in the middle of the day. I just don't know how to explain it. I was just past the entrance to the grounds when I see someone standing by an oak tree with an old Cherokee clothes, the buckskins and the moccasins of old days. I know some people that still dress this way and don't really come this close to town either. I started to walk towards him, and I've not talked in Cherokee for a long time. I say hello like it was naturally my way of speaking, and I look down at my camera, and there's no one standing there. I look up again, and the man is gone. I stop and look around, not believing what I think I've just seen. I just stand there for a few minutes and start looking back through my footage on my camera. All I see in it is a shadow next to the tree. By the time I start to think someone wants me here, I'm really freaking out about this. I turn around and head straight to my room, and the whole time I'm thinking I'm going crazy. I've not ever had this much action on any of my investigations before. Well, that's all for now. Hope everyone enjoys the read. So quoth this raven, and developed a familiarity that he felt. Okay, we're gonna start at the beginning. This is terrible. I haven't even got through the first paragraph. Ignominy. My door just opened by itself. That's not cool. Okay, my apologies to myself editing this in the future. Because, yeah, that. Give it a like, thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye, my darlings.